Good morning. Welcome to Hope, Faith, and Joy Daily Devotion with me, Pastor Amanda. Today we are looking at Genesis chapter 20. Now, if you ever thought that the Old Testament was boring, well, it's the greatest soap opera that has ever happened, and we're going to see more about that today. And if yesterday didn't disturb you, today, you know what, we might be getting there. But yeah, so we have some interesting drama happening. So we find that um, Abraham had been staying at the Oaks of Mamre where he met the angels, and now he's on the move again. And he's heading towards the region of Negev, we are told. And in this, we find that he encounters a king named Abimelech. And once again, Abraham is a little worried that these are ungodly people. And so Abraham says that Sarah is his sister. And of course, Sarah is known to be quite a beautiful woman, even in her older age. And so King Abimelech goes like, I'm going to take her as my wife. And what we have here then, so Abraham, once again, is not trusting what God is doing. And this is the second time that he passes Sarah off to another man. And what happens, though, is something very interesting, is that we find that Abimelech already has his own personal relationship with God. And God warns him that he will be committing a great atrocity if he takes Sarah as his wife. And so God warns King Abimelech in his dream to not do this. And that guilt and shame has already been brought on his house just because he's brought Sarah in. And so what I think is neat about this is it helps us to realize that Abraham is not the only one who has a relationship with God. Now, God has a bit of favoritism towards Abraham, but God isn't just for Abraham. God's still watching out for others that maybe are not his favorite. And so what happens is then Abimelech goes and he doesn't just get walked over by Abraham, so to speak, but he goes and he confronts Abraham. And he says, why did you do this? You lied to me, and you have brought guilt on my family. So he's kind of like, and so Abraham, I think Abraham's trust in God is still not at the best. But he kind of goes, well, it was only half a lie. Actually, she is my sister. She just is not the same she has the same father, but not the same mother. Okay, soap opera moment. So now we found out just a little bit more about how closely related Abraham and Sarah are. And we do find out later in Deuteronomy that this is too close of a relationship. But at this point in time, it passes, but it's not common. And so we find that Abraham, is like, well, it was a half lie. So he doesn't fully take on responsibility for what he has done. But we also find something else in here, is that God calls Abraham a prophet. And so that with Abraham's blessing, with Abraham's prayers, Abimelech can be forgiven for the guilt that has been placed on his house because of Abraham's actions. Sounds a little messed up, but that's exactly what's happening here. And so what we find then is that Abraham, takes Sarah back, and then King Abimelech gives Abraham more land and gives him more cattle and stuff like that. And so they're vindicated in this. And we have this little interlude that's important in the story of Abraham and Sarah, is that it says that when Sarah went to Abimelech's house, that the wombs were closed in the house because of the shame they had. And then once Sarah left and Abraham did his prayer, all of a sudden the wombs are opened. And that's kind of a little bit of foreshadowing of what's about to happen to Sarah. Her womb will be opened. But I find this chapter very intriguing, because what we actually see is the good guys are not the ones we assume should be the good guys. I mean, Abraham is the one who's not trusting God. Abraham is the one who's lying and passing off, Sarah as if there's no marital relations going on. And yet, so we see that God, though, doesn't